hummingbirds out at of our office out at Prairie Pines the last couple of weeks, and I had an oriole come in 2 days ago to the bird bath. But that's about the only thing I've seen unusual. We're having tons of robins. The other day we have 3 bird baths outside my window I can see, and all of them had 8 birds in it, and there were more birds on the ground. So for some reason, the robins are coming through in droves. And a lot of them are immatures, I think, from this year because they weren't really bright yet. So I think it was family units traveling, going south already. So we have any other bird sightings, anything unusual or fun that you've had or seen? It doesn't look like we've had much going on. I know some monarchs. Yeah, we've had a few monarchs out at Prairie Pines, not a whole bunch, but a few. So yeah, I've seen a few around. Any other birds? I know Bruce and April out the other day, and they saw lots of good stuff they put on Facebook. Yeah.
This is not very uplifting, but there was a immature vulture that was sick enough that it was sitting on the railing over Salt Creek, and people were just walking by it within feet of it, and it just sat there and ignored them. It was tried, there was an attempt to rescue it, but they couldn't find it when they were called. I don't know where it went or how it went anywhere, given how it was behaving, but it was interesting. You could walk up within 5 feet of it and look at it.
Yeah, but it was an immature, huh?
Yes.
Mature turkey vulture. Okay, I had a call from a lady in Council Bluffs the other day, had an owl. She didn't say what kind it was. It was injured in her backyard and wanted to know how to get hold of Betsy. So I got hold of Betsy, and she had a person in Omaha that was going to go pick it up. But I haven't heard yet what kind of owl it was, but it was in her backyard. Anything else? Have any other bird sightings, anything unusual or fun that you've seen? Yes, Gerald.
Wood ducks are starting to concentrate.
Okay, you've got them out there in your pond? Okay, good. Yeah, it's starting to cool down, and then we got this warm spell coming, so that may keep things down for a while. Well, with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started on tonight's main presentation. Just a reminder, tonight's presentation and past presentations are available on YouTube, so you can go back and see your favorite programs again or tell friends about it. But tonight it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's presenter, Dr. Megan McGuffey. Megan is the Executive Director of Community Crops in Lincoln. She earned her PhD from UNO School of Public Administration. Her research focuses on food and farm policy, and she has co-authored food assessments for regional and statewide food policy organizations. She's involved in local food work across the state. She served on the legislature's Community Garden Task Force, the Lincoln Lancaster County Food Policy Council, and Share Our Table in the Omaha Council Bluffs area. She co-chairs the Mayor's Community Committee on Local Food for the City of Lincoln. And tonight's talk, she's going to share about community crops, how it operates, and stories of some of their families and their farmers. And Megan will take questions at the end of her presentation. With that, I give you Megan.
Thank you, Mark, and so great to see you all. Thank you for being here this evening and for this opportunity to speak. It's nice to see a lot of familiar and friendly faces. So yes, I'm Megan McGuffey. I'm the director of the Community Crops Program of Family Service Lincoln. What you're seeing here is an overview of the Prairie Pines training farm out at the Prairie Pines Nature Preserve, so we'll talk more about that later, but it's just been really exciting to partner with your organization and to have this opportunity to have this conversation. I think it's always important when agricultural groups and conservation and nature-focused groups can be in conversation together. Oh, I have to remind myself which way to point.
Oh, wait, I have to make your screen now.
Okay.
Okay, now I think it'll work.
Perfect. Okay, I thought I would share a little bit of personal background, how I came to this work. So I'm originally from southwestern Kansas, near Garden City, if anyone's familiar. So my family dryland farms there, and if you know anything about the geography, they get about 15 inches of rain a year, so very challenging environment for agriculture. But my family's been there many generations. That top picture is my great-grandmother and my grandmother and great-aunt in that photo out on harvest day, and had to have an old sunflower field picture from Kansas. So, and that's me in the middle with Wilbur. She was a rescue pig that fell off a truck in town, they think, from a feedlot, and kind of became a mascot of the farm for a lot of years. So I still enjoy going out there and seeing how my cousin and uncle have taken over the operation. I would say my background from this region also really informed how I think about agriculture, the good and the bad. So Garden City is part of the meat packing triangle, if you're not familiar, so a very big part of CAFOs and confined animal feeding operations, feedlots. They jokingly say in Garden City it smells like money, and that is all of the cows that are in town or nearby town. And then this is an old postcard from my great-grandparents from the Dust Bowl era, so definitely very thoughtful about the positives and the negatives of the choices that we make when we grow our food, and so that's been very informative to me. As was mentioned in the introduction, I went on to get my education in public administration and really focus on food policy and local food systems, and kind of fell in love with doing this work in the community, so that's how I landed where I am today. This is all of the community crops team except for one, so we're small but mighty, as we'll talk about all the things that we do. Our mission as a program is to provide education, advocacy, and experiences to grow local food. And so those people plus one take care of 15 sites and nearly 19 acres of land. So we have a lot that we're stewarding all around the city of Lincoln. You've probably come across the community crop site without even realizing it. And I also like to mention that our institutional home is Family Service Lincoln. So if you didn't know, in 2023, we joined this larger nonprofit, and so now we're a program or a department of that nonprofit. It's been a great change for us, and it's kind of the best kept secret in Lincoln, I think. It's one of the oldest nonprofits in the community, and it does a lot of different things to help families thrive. So everything from youth development to food issues to behavioral health and housing. So before I get into what Community Crops is doing today, I think it's really important to set the table as to why we do what we do. What's kind of the issue that drives us? And for me, that really boils down to food security. I think traditionally we thought a lot about hunger, and that's the issue that we would talk about around food. Today, food security is a more helpful term. So if I am food secure as an individual, I have a adequate, consistent access to all of the healthy and nutritious food that I need to live a healthy and productive life. So kind of a mouthful, but what does it practically look like when someone is food insecure? That might look like mom or grandma skipping a meal so that the kids have enough to eat. Or maybe you're deciding, do I pay the electric bill or do I buy the groceries I want this week? It also affects the quality of the food you have, right? Maybe you don't have a car and the neighborhood you're in doesn't have good quality food. Maybe you don't have a refrigerator that's working or your utilities are behind. So all of these things you can imagine, it's not the same as like true deep hunger, but it's really disruptive to your life. It's really disruptive to your physical health, and it's also hard on your mental health to not have that. So that's a lot of why we do what we do and why we think it's important at the household level. About 12% of the Lincoln population is food insecure today, and the majority of those households have children in them. So it's a percentage of our community, but it's a really important issue that impacts people deeply. The harder one that people don't talk about as much or maybe not as familiar with is community food security. So take that same concept. Does Lincoln, the population of Lincoln, have consistent, adequate access to all the food we need to be thriving as a community, right? And I think your initial responses might be like, yeah, I went to the grocery store the other day. They had plenty of stuff on the shelf. I feel pretty good about it. And that's true, and that's a triumph of the globalized and industrialized food system. I think what most of us don't think about day to day is how incredibly fragile that system is. And we've been forced to think about a little bit more in recent years. A couple of examples: when you have a country that is a major grain exporter that goes into a global conflict, that can disrupt food supply and prices. We have single counties in the state of California that provide 80 or 90% of some of our produce or nut items. What if they have a drought, a flood, wildfires? That can be disruptive to our food supply. And from the emergency management and kind of defense world, the statistic they give us is the average American city has a 3-day supply of food. So if the trucks stop coming tomorrow, planes, trains, and automobiles, where is your food going to come from? How are you going to feed yourself? And so you might be like, well, that's not a Nebraska problem. We have 45 million plus acres of farmland, right? Not growing food for people. Over 90% of our food here in the state of Nebraska is imported. We grow feed for animals and we grow fuel. We don't grow a lot of fruits, veggies, things that end up directly on your plate every day. So with all that in account, did I push the wrong button, Linda? See what happens here.
Oh, just give a second.
Okay, with all that into account, I'm not suggesting we're gonna somehow replace the current food system, but I am saying if you want Lincoln to be resilient and have a great, vibrant future, we can build redundancies into that system by increasing our local food supply, and that will help us be successful and be able to weather whatever challenges we face. All those things I mentioned that can happen. The photo that was up, that'll hopefully be up again soon, is from the pandemic. So that year we saw a huge wait list, 90 plus families, people just desperately wanting to garden. You could see everyone in their face masks in the photos. So we were actually putting in donation gardens in places that weren't traditional rental plots, but we were just trying to get some additional food in different places so that people had something they could access. So these things can happen very quickly and be very stressful. So that is why if we think about it today, we plan for the future, we can have less disruption, less hardship as a community, and just really be successful. So that's why we do what we do, kind of the big scary reason, right? So now that I've been a huge downer about it, I also want to highlight there's a lot of other reasons to love local food. So next, I'll show you a picture of the Hub Cafe Farmers Market. Has anybody been to that farmers market in town? Yeah. Great local farmers market, and it's such an encapsulation of like why local food is just fun and makes our community a better place to live. You'll see live music, you'll see beautiful produce and flowers, people gathering on a weeknight. So local food makes Lincoln a fun place to live, an interesting place to live. So I think that's worth celebrating as well. Local food also has an economic multiplier effect. So $1 you spend with a local farmer has a greater than $1 benefit to the local economy. So those are all great reasons to be excited about local food and things that we think a lot about. Probably relevant to this group, there's also just sustainability. And I want to be really clear, it's a slippery slope. Like, local isn't inherently sustainable, right? Like, I can live next door to a million bird chicken operation, and that's not like local food in the way I'm talking about. That's not sustainable. So just because you're small doesn't mean you're farming or gardening in a sustainable way. But I do think that when you have relationships with your local growers, when you live in the community where you farm and your produce and products are going into that community, there is this opportunity to do things better and to really be excited and create something special compared to sort of the globalized food system. So all great things to support. I'm trying to remember my next slide. So if anyone has any questions as we go, feel free. I'm formal. Go ahead.
Do food recipients play a role in growing the crops?
Certainly, yeah. And for us, like really what we enable is land access and education. So we'll get into this more, but we don't, as an organization, we don't grow any food. What we do is we find land partners, such as Wachiska Audubon. We place gardens and farms on those properties, and then we find the growers, either gardeners or farmers, who are going to grow there. So they do all the work, they get all the produce. So that's a really important part of what we do. We're just sort of empowering people to feed themselves, and that's pretty incredible because it's a lot easier to go to the grocery store or stand in a line than it is to grow food for yourself. It's a long payoff, but people love it. They work so hard, and they also think about things like continuing their cultural traditions, growing food they can't find in the local stores. So there's a lot of great reasons people are growing their own food. Thanks for that question. Go ahead.
Thank you for bringing up the stats about children.
Mhm.
I recently was in a talk about the newest statistics about the fastest growing group of people in poverty
Mm-hmm.
in Lincoln and Lancaster County, and it's actually women over 60.
Oh, wow.
So it's not just children.
That's a great point. And when you think about who notices the most, maybe the difference in the quality of food, I would say in my work, it's been our senior citizens. I've had, folks drive up to a garden and ask about it because they say, well, I can get a tomato in the store, but it just doesn't taste the way I remember. And so they really appreciate that quality difference. And so you're right, it's important at every stage of life, and it has real, again, impacts on mental and physical health when you don't have that healthy food access. So, okay, so that's my background. Let me see if I can remember enough to dive in here. Oh, go ahead, I'll answer a few more questions, sure.
So, could you come
Hello?
to my yard and use my yard as well?
That's a great question, and we do have a lot of generous community members ask that. We, at this time, aren't really looking for new property. We're always willing to talk to people. Typically, we're on institutional properties, churches, faith communities, nonprofits, private sector. So we look for really long-term partnerships. So if we're developing a site, we say, could it be here for 10 years? Nothing's permanent in urban agriculture, but I'll tell you the thing that shocks people is water, how expensive it is to install water, and then just never wanting to displace people. So yes, we can try to connect you to other people, but we always recommend talking to your neighbors if you're interested in doing something with your own backyard, and then we kind of focus on larger scale that are on institutional properties.
At one time, I thought you were looking at land out by the airport.
Yes.
I don't know if you got that land.
We did. That was a really cool partnership. So part of our work is always policy and systems work again, and that's close to my heart with my background. But thanks to folks on the Airport Authority Board and our city council at the time, we were able to get access to some public land. We love our farm at Prairie Pines. We'll talk more about it. It's 5 acres, so that only gets you so far as trying to serve the need in the community. And so Air Park was the first time we had a major expansion. We have a 12-acre farm there that's under development, so that has a lot of potential to feed that need for land in the long term. And so we're really excited, and we're hoping as it gets better developed to be inviting people into that space and to learn. And interesting on birds, since you're people who care about birds, like being by an airport, every airport in the US has a wildlife specialist, and they have to be very careful about what birds they attract. So that's been a real education for me at that site. We have to be really careful anytime we plant a new crop. What birds does that crop attract? And we have to run it past them so that we don't attract birds that are harmful to airplanes. So that's a fun thing I've gotten to learn about the last few years that I never anticipated.
Do you work with Backyard Farmer at all?
We do work with Extension some. We don't have a real formal partnership, but I think we're always referring to each other, and we know that we both have really good information to share in different roles in the community. So yeah, definitely a big fan of those folks and refer people to Extension often. Go ahead.
How long has Community Crops been in existence?
Great question. Our first garden was started in 2003, so we're over 20 years now, if you can believe it, and we've expanded. So I mentioned the 15 sites, 19 acres, so we've got 11 gardens. We have 2 big farm sites, the 5 acres at Prairie Pines, the 12 acres at Air Park. We have a small urban ag plot, and then we have 2 production greenhouses at the old property at First and Pioneers. Some of you who've been in Lincoln a long time, I remember it's been different nurseries and greenhouses, and so that's where we grow some of our plant starts. Go ahead.
Is there any oversight after the seeds are in the ground as far as application of herbicides and pesticides?
Great question. Yes, we require all organic practices. We're not certified organic in any way, but we do not allow our growers, our gardeners, or our farmers to use anything except for OMRI-approved methods. And that's where the education comes in as well, is like we really try to help people understand what's the option even before an organic intervention is used. And so we try to talk about things like crop rotation and beneficial insects and soil health and all of those things. So focusing on those as the first point of intervention. And for our gardeners especially, we will provide them with some of those resources like alternatives to heavy chemicals. And I always love, there's always a point in the season where someone shows up the office with a cottage cheese container and what is this bug? It's been eating everything. What do I do? So we do try to be here to help as much as we can with those issues so that people are using things that are gentle on nature as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you foresee expanding the commercial production greatly sometime in the near future? You mentioned 3 days, but to change that, it's going to require a lot of food grown locally.
Very true. Yeah. I'm nothing if not cheesy phrases here, and it is a real chicken and egg problem. So I'll say, so yes, we would love to greatly increase the food supply. And I will say something special about Lincoln, Nebraska is although we match national statistics as far as an aging farmer population, a shrinking farmer population, the new Americans here in Lincoln have incredible experience growing food. So we welcome anyone in our programs. You don't have to have a certain background or income level. But I got to tell you, we have guys from Iraq, Syria, folks from Cameroon, they have grown large scale vegetable production, and they can really succeed if they can connect with markets. And so that's part of what we are always puzzling with as well. And so that is a real challenge of scale. I mean, farmers markets are one piece, and we love and support those. But to really make it as a business, you need to be able to get into big institutions. And it's a really big leap from a restaurant or a farmer's market into Super Saver. So that's a big part of the equation that I don't have the right answer for, but there's a lot of people in this community that care about that and are constantly trying to chip away at that issue. Institutions can be a big help. School districts, other like intermediary hospitals. If you don't know Bryan Health, they have a chef there, loves local food, buys a lot from farmers. So those kind of folks and institutions can really help scale up to a point where we could truly grow production. And I mean, going back to the air park example, the airport authority has about 700 acres of farmland that's being rented out for primarily corn and soy. And many of your local institutions hold on to land for future development, school districts, utilities, so many. So there's a lot of farmland that's either owned by government or other folks that could perhaps be using it for this. It just comes down to having enough market for the farmers to justify it, and then the resources to get people set up. Go ahead.
You might have said this before, but where's your office located?
Sure, we are in the Family Service Lincoln office at 7th and J, so kind of the Milltown building complex.
Oh,
Yeah, just south of the Haymarket. Go ahead. So many great questions. I love this group.
The slides won't come back on. This isn't working. So
Oh, no problem.
just go ahead and.
Great, thanks for the warning. Yeah, it was all just photos anyway, so yeah, this is great.
We are on YouTube, so if you'll
Wonderful.
repeat the question,
Okay,
that people on YouTube can hear.
okay, I'll repeat the questions. Thanks, Linda. Go ahead.
Hi. One of my daughters works for the community gardens in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Seed St. Louis.
Fabulous.
And it includes St. Louis and St. Louis County, and they keep getting bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
They have had some federal grants
Mhm.
that have been cut
Mm-hmm.
because of what's going on in this country.
Yes.
And so they haven't decreased what they're doing. They just keep taking on bigger and bigger loads for each person.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm wondering is, do you have any funding like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So far, we've been fortunate. We have not had anything cut. We've had a few things frozen and then unfrozen as the administrative processes got worked through. I think what is becoming increasingly uncertain for, I would say, every nonprofit, not just in food, but across our community, is many of the regular opportunities and programs that would, like, oh, this grant always opens in April, or you can expect to see this one in the fall. Many of them just aren't opening, and we're hearing more and more they're just not going to offer opportunities this year. So those aren't like guaranteed sources of funding. They're competitive. You know, we'd have to apply and try just like anyone else. But I do think that there is going to be a lot of strain in this community across your nonprofit sector. So be kind to your nonprofits and your local causes, because it's going to be a challenging few years. And I think, like you said, we don't want to cut services, so we're just going to try to be creative in what we do and look for more support from the community and other methods. And so a few things I can highlight that we do beyond just our grant writing, which is maybe about 60% of our funding. We do an event called Feast on the Farm that is out at Prairie Pines. So this is a really cool celebration of those cultural pieces of local food I mentioned. So every August, we get out to the farm and we get like 12 of the best local chefs in Lincoln, and they source the ingredients from our farmers at Prairie Pines or other local farmers, and they make a progressive feast. It's literally a big feast, and you get to try all these amazing dishes from really talented local chefs, and there's live music, and it's just a great day. People get to meet the farmers and tour. So that's an important event for us. We also do a plant sale in the spring. So if you're looking for, again, not organically certified, but chemically free vegetable starts, and we also partner with Midwest natives to get some native plants. That's a great way to support us. So I think we know that there's a lot of abundance in our community, and I think that we'll just have to look inward. But again, so far we have been fortunate. We're just sort of looking at an uncertain future and trying to plan for that.
And we do have a microphone, so I'll hand it to Ned over here.
And sorry, I forgot to repeat the question, Linda. I'll do that.
Thank you, Megan, for speaking for us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also part of one of your partners, Prairie Pines Partners.
Wonderful.
Really
Great
glad
see you.
to have Community Crops with us. It's really wonderful. when I give tours of Prairie Pines, I frequently tell people that the majority of the farmers at Community Crops are immigrants.
Mhm.
I'd like you to confirm or disconfirm that impression.
Sure.
And if you have any idea the percentage of your land and the percentage of your farmers who are indeed immigrants.
Absolutely. So we serve about 250 households a year, 600 plus individuals. That's gardens and farms. And I would say on average, about 80% of our participants across gardens and farms are low to moderate income. And about 35 to 40% are new Americans, so immigrants or refugees. The farm program in particular is disproportionately new Americans. And again, we are open to anyone to apply, but we have just found a lot of enthusiasm and skill in those communities. A few years ago, we had something called the Yazidi Farmers Project, and this was when we realized there's so many great connections between our different programs. So we had all of these Yazidi gardeners, and if you're not familiar with that community, it's an ethnic minority from northern Iraq. They've experienced over 70 genocide attempts for many, many years. And so many of them were interpreters for the U.S. Army, things like that. We have the largest population in the United States here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And they are also incredible farmers. It just so happens many, many people in that community were farmers. And so a lot of them were in our garden program for many years, and they kept asking for more land, more land. Our garden starts with 100 square foot plots, and you can often only get up to 4. Some sites it's even less because of our space constraints and the demand. And we just had all these families that wanted more space, and I think it just finally dawned on us at one point, like, you're not a gardener, are you? You're a farmer, and how can we use those skills and help you farm here in the United States? So that's a portion of our population. Increasingly, we're seeing a lot of folks from Syria, also a really rich agricultural history in that region, so a lot of very talented Syrian farmers, folks from Cameroon. So like I said, it's everyone and anyone, but those are some of the communities out there. There's also a really neat project right now that Wachiska Audubon and Prairie Pines Partners and us have all helped support. So there's a plot out there that is the Walking in the Footsteps of Our Ancestors, someone correct me if I said that wrong, project. It's a really incredible indigenous project where with the Center for Great Plains Studies, they basically are working with the Oto-Missouri, one of the native tribes of Nebraska, and growing some of those native crops that are for that people that have been displaced. And so tribal members are coming back from Oklahoma a couple times a year to experience it. Other Native American youth and folks are able to experience it throughout the year. So that's another really cool example. And it's just been really striking to me because we have all these people that are currently being displaced and are finding a home here and refuge. And then we also have that project. So there's a lot of really neat things happening in this community. It's very welcoming.
I'll mention too, the Oto-Missouri will have about 180 people here next weekend, and Anthony Warrior is going to do a big feast, and he's going to use the squash and beans from that garden.
I love it. Yeah, Anthony Warrior's incredible. So it's so much good stuff
Do
happening.
your immigrant farmers grow non-traditional crops
Yes.
that we're not used to? And what about like Syria and what's Cameroon?
Yep.
Their climate is much different than
Yeah.
ours, so it's
Well,
how do they adapt to that?
It is really interesting. So I guess one thing I'm learning is like if you come from a region where agriculture is important and successful, there are a lot of similarities, and so there is a lot of skills that transfer. The climate is certainly different. The length of the growing season can be a challenge for some crops, and also just the pest pressures and the weed pressures are very different here. So, or even things like rainfall. Like I know some of our Syrian farmers have talked a lot about like you really shouldn't irrigate okra after a certain point. You kind of like get it up to height and you leave it there, and then you don't want to irrigate it. And sometimes that works in Nebraska. Sometimes we have a really rainy summer and it doesn't work. So, but I would say, yeah, they're every day we're learning about new crops and people are bringing those ideas here. There's a lot of commonalities, things like eggplants and peppers and tomatoes, but there's also really unique things. Pickling pepper, which is not really a variety of pepper, but it's a style of sweet kind of Italian pepper. That's really important in the Yazidi community, so we've seen a lot of that. Cutting celery, cress, which I think the closest like taste equivalent would be like arugula, but it's this teeny tiny herb green that has like one of the most complex, interesting flavors I've ever tasted. It just kind of hits you in layers, so that's really cool. Green melon is something a lot of the Syrian folks are growing, and it's really more like a cucumber in flavor, but different shape, looks more like a melon. So yeah, they're doing something interesting every day. And again, those adapting things, like so incredible, like they have crops that really thrive without irrigation. And so they're saying, how could I dryland farm that here and be conserving natural resources and things like that. So we love that. We love that in the garden program too. And that's part of why we have our greenhouses. So there's a lot of crops that are easy to find. You know, you could go to any hardware store or big box store and find red, slicing tomatoes or green bell peppers. But some of these other things are a little bit trickier to find. So we get to learn in community with our growers. What can't you find here? What do you need? Even when there's language barriers, we do a lot of showing each other pictures on our cell phones. And then we get to learn new things and find out how widespread and popular those are across many different communities and parts of the world. And so that's a real joy every year to get to try new things together.
I was just wondering, growing food locally is sure a good goal for food security, but we were wondering, any focus on addressing food waste? Because it seems like, I've heard statistics like 40% of the food that we produce is wasted, and you go to a place like Costco, you might see a whole basket of blueberries with one bad one, and they're just throwing tons and tons of food away. Any way of redirecting some of that food to people that need it?
That's a great question. So Community Crops Day to Day doesn't do as much work in the food waste space other than just trying to help people know how to use their food well. And I will say one good thing about, like, when you go to the farmer's market, sometimes you might think, this price is a little high compared to what I could get at Walmart, right? But it was just picked. So the quality and the nutritional value of that produce is completely different. And I think we see less food waste when you don't have something that's already 3 weeks old and that's coming into your fridge and isn't going to last very long. And that's where we see a lot of waste, both at the store and at the home is where a lot of the waste happens as well. There are other great smart people in the community that are thinking about what you're talking about. And so it was mentioned earlier, the Mayor's Community Committee on Local Food. Food waste is an important part of the food system, completing that cycle and not wasting resources. And so we have a lot of great traditional, like, emergency food or food distribution groups like the Food Bank of Lincoln and others, and they do a really great job capturing some of that food waste. So there's a lot of great food that is still perfectly safe to eat, high quality, nothing wrong with it, getting thrown away in this country. And so they work very hard with corporations and institutions to say, can I please have that? Can we have a relationship where I will safely pick that up, make sure there's no risk to human health or anything else, and make sure people can enjoy that produce or other foods. And so those are great groups. There's also groups like FoodNet that capture a lot of things and get it back out into the community. So, and that's another thing where I think institutions have a big impact. And a lot of the issue that Food Bank is working on, from my understanding, is simply just getting those partnerships in place, because sometimes it's just easier for companies to say, well, the dumpster's right there. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to plan. So getting them to see that importance and that value and closing that gap is something that people are working really hard on in this community, and we need even more of that. So yeah, thank you for that question.
I have two questions, actually, or comments. About 10 years ago, I want to give a shout out to a program I took from your organization on low tunnels.
Wonderful.
Because if I understand part of what you're talking about, we can do the gardens, but we're largely talking about summer produce. We have all year to feed ourselves.
Yes.
So with one piece of plastic from your program, we're harvesting, our goal is Christmas, and then we start again in February.
Love it.
So when we we're sowing now, when we sow our spinach, with one piece of plastic, it keeps it from drying out, but the plant goes into suspended animation basically, and we're harvesting spinach in February and March. So I just wanted to point that out if you haven't had that class lately. It's very inexpensive.
Yes.
The other is I've started talking to the city. There's a lot of tree distribution programs like the NRDs, and I'm pitching Food Forest.
Love it. Yeah.
So if anybody's behind that idea, and what we did was picked plants that the birds would like.
Yes.
But if we had to fight the birds for it, we could eat it also.
Yeah.
And that's more of a shrub and small tree, but I'd like to see support for making that happen wider across the city.
Yeah, thank you for both of those. Those are great comments. So yes, we do focus on season extension, and you actually can expect to see more of that from us. So we'll be doing more demonstrations and getting that education out in the coming years, thanks to a partnership with NRCS, which is a USDA agency. So we do a lot of that. Our farmers do a ton of season extension and getting those same kind of results you're talking about, growing well into the winter, very short, like non-season, because they can grow greens, some of those cultural crops like cress, some of those things love the cold, arugula, beautiful arugula coming out of the high tunnels. So that's something we do as well, and we're also trying to educate people more on the programs that are out there from groups like the USDA that can give you technical and financial assistance to do some of those things. But like you said, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can even do a low tunnel in your backyard, and so we hope to put more emphasis on that because there's a lot of value in that. So I appreciate that. And your second comment, food forests. Okay. Yes, so prairie pines, another wonderful feature if you get to come out and visit the farm, is that we have an agroforestry plot, which is more of a kind of traditional orchard style, very straight rows, very spaced out. And then we also have a food forest. So agroforestry went in 2016. The food forest is still a baby. It went in 2019. But the agroforestry plot, like I said, more traditional. The food forest mimics more of the forest layers using those permaculture principles. So you have different layers of trees and shrubs. You have herbs and things in the lower story. So we do try to at least get people exposure to those ideas. So maybe so many of the people we work with are renting, owning land is maybe not attainable for them short term or long term. So we do have those features out at the farm so people can experience it and learn it. So that is really great. And I would love to see more of that in the community. I think that's important. And yeah, and it's also a great just ecosystem thing. So great example, that agroforestry plot I mentioned, which is on the west, kind of northwest side of our part of the property. If you walk down there, it used to be very flood prone. There's that creek bed behind there. And so we were putting beginning farmers there, and every few years they were getting flooded out and the produce was not safe then to harvest or eat. And so we turned that problem into a solution. We worked with UNL in the agroecology area there, and they were able to help us select varieties that they don't mind having their feet wet. So different nuts and berries. And so now what was kind of a challenge or a problem is this really vibrant space, and some of those trees are finally getting mature and coming into production. And you're totally right. Do we get the berries a lot? Not really. The birds really sure love them though, and that's important too. We want to feed all of our relatives. So.
Okay, we got time for one more quick question from Marilyn here, and then we've got our musicians going to come up. So
wonderful.
We'll let them get set up. Marilyn, there you go.
Okay. I wondered if you had any thoughts about encouraging people to do it yourself gardening?
Yes, thank you. Okay, yeah, encouraging people to grow on your own. So there is a lot of great work and organizing happening in this community. There's a DIY home gardening initiative. So there's a website you can find that has a lot of resources and information. We offer a lot of free classes and handouts in English that are visual, but also in different translations. And really, I just would encourage people to get started. And if you walk away tonight feeling a little bit inspired or like you want to do something, you can, first of all, put your dollars where they count, right? So even if you just spent $5 a week on a local product, it could be at a farmer's market, it could be at a grocery store. That starts to create a culture shift in our community. But our landscapes are so important too. And I think there's sort of a contagion effect of if you live in a neighborhood and the norm is you have to have a pristine, green, chemically intensive lawn, that's what people think is okay and acceptable, but that's the largest irrigated crop in the United States, right, is the American lawn. Those resources could be going to other things, so we're trying to encourage a cultural shift in our community, get everyone to grow at least a little bit of your own food, and if you can, do it in your front yard so that your neighbors have to see it and have to think about it. That's really important, and there's groups like Tim and Kay in the Holly Hamlet, and they talk about I didn't know any of my neighbors for 20 years. Start to mess around in your front yard, put some garden beds. People come out and talk to you really fast, and you make some connections and relationships. So, yeah, look for those resources. You can connect through us or that DIY home gardening initiative. And the City of Lincoln has a great page around our local food system plan, because I'll mention that too, of we're really lucky to live in a community where they think about the transportation system, they think about the water system. They also get that the food system is a critical piece of infrastructure, because it really is. So there's great work you can get involved in and great resources you can connect to. So yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for asking lots of questions so I didn't have to remember what I was going to say. This was way more fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you very much. really appreciate that, especially with our technical difficulties. So with that, Wendy, come on up. Wendy Bantam, I'll introduce Wendy, and she can introduce her co-host here tonight.
Oh, hey. Hey, everyone. We're just going to play some songs for you. We thought we'd just tickle your eardrums with a few tunes. Music in the Pines is Wachiska's way of just celebrating our move to Prairie Pines, and we're really excited to have that event. So we got a grant from the Nebraska Arts Council. We got 2 grants from the Nebraska Arts Council to do the event, and Mark's going to do hot dogs, I guess, and Pepe's is going to do vegan wraps, and we built a stage in the forest for it. So anyway, it's going to be a good time. So bring your own chair, and we'll talk to you then. I'm so sorry. I'm being accompanied tonight by Norm Hamill. Yes, this will be our first time ever playing together with people. I know. I'll kick it off with one together. I'll kick off with one song solo, and then Norm will join me.
Okay, so remember, October 12th at Prairie Pines, we've got the event in the morning. We've got Prairie Pines Partners has the wellness in the forest, and so that with yoga and forest bathing and things like that, and then that's 10 to 4, and then at 4 o'clock we'll start with some entertainment, and then at about 5:30, that's when Lloyd McCarter and the Honky Tonk Revival will play. So October 12th, it's a Sunday night. Bring your lawn chair, come on out for some fun. So Wendy, I'll turn it over. Do you have something, Bruce, real quick?
You need volunteers?
Yes, we do need volunteers.
Count me in.
Okay, we'll count you in, Bruce. We got you. We'll need some volunteers, help with parking and serving. So go ahead, Wendy. We'll turn it over to you.
Can you hear me? Oh, hey. Oh, I didn't know we were going to all that. That was perfect. I liked it. The fairest bloom the mountain knows is not an iris or wild rose, but a little flower of which I'll tell, known as a brave, a coney bell. Just a simple flower, so small and plain, with a pearly hue and a little known name. But the yellowbird sings when they see it bloom, for they know that spring is coming soon. Well, it makes its home amid the rocks and the rills, where the snow's lie deep on the windy hills, and it tells the world, why should I wait? This ice and snow is gonna melt away. And so I'll sing that yellowbird song, for troubled times will soon be gone. Just a reminder, we've never played for people before, so. We play for people in our minds all the time.
You'll hear a lot of banjo jokes.
Oh, this is bass. This is bass. Yeah, that's why we got a banjo joke.
That's why they hear a lot of banjo jokes, because he doesn't remember what he's playing.
So I'm going to do just a couple songs for you. Some other people wrote, and some I wrote. Last night the pale moon was shining. Last night when all was still, I wandered alone in sadness among the woodland hills. I heard the birds a-singing out in the fields and views, and every bird I darling was singing, singing for you, singing so gently and look on the beautiful view. The world itself, my darling, is sighing, sighing for you. Sighing, sighing for you, my love. Sighing, sighing for you. The world itself, my darling, is sighing, sighing for you. Dreaming, dreaming of you, my love. Dreaming, dreaming of you. The world itself, my darling, is dreaming, dreaming of you. Okay. Would you like to hear a love song or a love song?
I'll go for the love song.
Okay. Let me paint a picture. Base. Is it on there?
Cheat sheet. Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah, good. It's nice to meet you, Norm.
Whitney, it's always been a charm.
Okay.
I told her I wouldn't talk to you.
Okay, me neither. Let me paint a picture of that day when you held my hand. You walked for miles in the summer sun, counting clouds along the way. Fall came and the leaves turned red, orange, yellow in the sun. We built a fire by the water and fell asleep beneath the stars. Birds fly between ocean waves, tiny fish beneath the sea. Little bees fly to the flower. Will you come home to me? Ice breaks on the river where we stood, flowers covered in the snow. Stars shone down from up above, and it's always time to go. You're standing in front of me. It's been years since that day. Nothing's changed, darling, look at me. I still feel the same way. Birds fly between ocean waves, tiny fish beneath the sea. Little bees fly to the flower. Will you come home to me? Birds fly between ocean waves, tiny fish beneath the sea. Little bees fly to the flower. Will you come home to me?
Thank you.
We'll do you one more song. Would you like that, or okay? I'd like that too. Hard times. This is a short intermission where I take a drink of water and Norm gets his banjo.
Well, getting ready to play the banjo takes time. At least I don't have to tune it because that would be like, you can't tune a fish. Did I just say that?
You said the tuna fish banjo joke, which I feel compels me to tell the perfect pitch is when you throw a banjo into a dumpster, but I don't really believe that. I love banjo. I love it.
I just started playing this like a year ago.
Well, good job. You're doing great.
I've always been a bass player, so I always had banjo jokes. I can't tell them now. It's like I have my head in shame when I tell a banjo joke.
All right. Ba-dum-bump. Okay. Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears as we all sup sorrow with the poor. There's a voice that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis a song, a sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. There's a pale drooping maiden who toils her life away with a worn heart as better days are over. Though her voice would be silent, her pleading looks still say, oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis a song, a sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. While we seek mirth and beauty and music bright and gay, there are frail forms fainting at the door. Though their voices are silent, their pleading looks still say, oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis a song, a sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. Oh, hard times come again no more. Oh, hard times come again no more.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So there was your teaser for October 12th. So remember, October 12th, come out and join us 4 to 8 at Prairie Pines. So with that, thanks for coming tonight. Sorry about the technical difficulties, especially Megan, you handled it like a pro. Thank you very much. We've got some cookies out in the lobby, so stick around, and I'm sure Megan will answer additional questions for a few minutes, but thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. There's a lot of time in my face. And this song was just very simple.
Well, I read one of those books already, and I went to your, you did some nice,
Bring your banjo.
good stuff in that. Yes, I started reading the book about the inner earth. Take care.